Hey, Brett Schuhart. I'm going to do my normal Thursday routine, and then afterwards I'll probably do some splits. I've got a few more props. I'm going to start with Lightning Bolt or Hero. Do that for 5 minutes, and then I'll go on to a few other things. All right. Anyway, let's go ahead. Go. I'm going to be a little more talkative this time than the last video. For Lightning Bolt, I'm going to start by sitting with my knees together, and I'm going to spread my feet. Some people, you might be really tight, and if so, you might use a pillow. You might start here. You could even start on a chair and work your way down, but that's not where I'm at. So I'm going to go ahead and put my knees together, splaying my feet apart, and I'm going to put my bum sort of between my feet. Alexa, 5-minute timer. And there we go. So a couple things about this pose. Nice stretch right here. So the front of your legs. Now think about this. If you're stretching the front, that means you can go back. So when you try to go backwards, tightness here stops you from going backwards. Tightness on your back makes it hard to go forward. So tightness on your front makes it hard to go backwards. I'm loosening that up. This is a really good stretch for the knees. Generally speaking, when we talk about knees or any joints, if you feel discomfort, and I'm feeling a little bit of a cramp in my left foot there. There we go. If you feel a little discomfort, that's fine. If you feel pressure, if you can point to the painful spot, that's probably an issue. You want to back off. And this foot, oh my gosh. So there is the tendon that connects behind the ball of the large foot there. And I'm going to have to come out of this a little bit. That's what I have to do. Yeah, that's better. I'm not as far down, but I'm still getting a nice stretch up here and a nice stretch in my knees. And since I'm going to be here for 5 minutes, that little bit of discomfort I feel now will end up being really a really nice stretch. Couple of notes. Wet noodle. Anywhere you can, make things loose. Let gravity do the work. So I'm not tensing up. Strength, tension, tensing up is yang. Flexibility is yin. Your nervous system has a preference towards yang, fight and flight, freeze, because from a survival basis, that was important. So a lot of what you're doing when you're doing deep flexibility training is retraining your body. You're actually, you're in a meat suit, and the meat suit has a lot of autopilot built into it. And we're just sort of taking part of the meat suit out of autopilot. So wet noodle. I want to take at least 2, maybe 5 minutes. 2 minutes for the whole system to relax and get past any kind of reflex response. 5 minutes, much beyond 5 minutes, probably diminishing returns, better to do a separate pose than keep in the same pose. I'm going to break that rule for splits because with splits, it's a much more intense pose and it's working with much bigger muscles. Breathe to relax. So when you breathe in, your pulse goes up for a healthy heart rate and a rested body. That's heart rate variability. As you breathe out, your pulse rate goes down. So if you tend to breathe, say 2 to 1, sorry, 1 to 2, so in for 4 seconds, out for 8 seconds, you're going to slowly relax and engage your parasympathetic nervous system. Also, you want to breathe fairly slowly. You want to get down to sort of coherent breathing, 5 breaths per minute. And coherent breathing is also actually balanced, say 6 seconds in, 6 seconds out. But for this, same amount of time for breath, but 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. Into the nose, out through the mouth. You can also just use ujjayi breath if you want to. So you may not be able to hear this, but I'm going to constrict the back of my throat. That both vibrates the throat, and there's a vagus nerve. Most people it's on the right, but there's a vagus nerve here. So if you combine throat vibrations or breathing out through the throat and relaxing the belly, another vagus nerve, you're stimulating your vagus nerve in two parts of your body with your breath. And your breath is the easiest way to have a direct impact on your autonomic system. That's how we do it. So 5 breaths per minute is a great place to get you into a nice balanced set of awareness and relaxedness. That means each breath is 12 seconds. And if you make them symmetrical, 6 in, 6 out, you're going to get a balanced response, and you're going to sort of bring your, if you're excited, it'll bring you down. If you're mellow, it'll bring you up. Alexa, stop. Okay, so to come out of this, my knees have been pretty tightly pressed, so I'm going to just come out slowly. And then I'm going to come out a little bit further. All right, there we go. And I'll just sort of stretch my knees to. Okay, I'm going to do these poses out of order. The next pose I'm going to do is noodle, and I'm going to do noodle pose, which is a back bend, thoracic spine back bend. I'm going to put this block about here, where if I had a bra, I would be wearing it. I'm going to cover it with a pillow, and then I'm going to hold it for 5 minutes. I'll do it right here. This should be good. Get that out of the way. And I'll come back to this next in a bit. All right. Again, I'm going to go for bra, strap-ish area. So bottom of the shoulder blades. Okay, that's part one. Now, part two, I'm going to give I have trouble with my neck, so I can't let my head go that far back. Alexa, 5-minute timer. Ah, right there. Oh, that's perfect. This doesn't look like I'm doing much, but I assure you that my thoracic spine is bending back. So what I'm doing is I'm giving myself flexibility along my spine in a lateral sense. I also do a lot of twisting work with bagua and just twisting in general so that I also get my spine a lot of rotational flexibility. And so if you stimulate your spine like this on a regular basis, you're going to find that your spine is going to be a happy spine. Okay, that's a little bit high for my head. I want it a little lower. There we go. Now, I'm fine right now. If I were to feel any kind of pinch in my lower back, I would bring my feet flat. So for example, let's say I have a pinch in my lower back. That would get rid of it. I don't need it. If I were on the carpet, I would probably need to bend my knees, but this is giving me just enough that I can just bend my shoulders. Principles again, 4-8 breathing. Breathe to relax. 4 seconds in, 8 seconds out. 5 seconds in, 10 seconds out. That's fine too. Noodle. Now, wet noodle means as much as possible my body's relaxed. My arms are not wet noodle, but I'm not using my muscles here. Uh, I might be able to drop them on the ground, but my arms are just where they're at. I'm just letting them kind of hang. Also, they're extended and kind of locked out. So I'm not using muscles to keep my arms where they're at. That's just kind of where they're going. Wet noodle. And then again, 2 to 5 minutes. I've been doing these poses for a while, so most of them I do for 5 minutes. Takes a while to work up to that. That's fine. Try to get to 2 minutes. Maybe you start at a minute. That's fine. Do it at a minute. The next day you do it at a minute or a minute and 5 seconds. Increase your time. Maintain or increase your time. Your body gets really good at knowing when you're about to where you were last time, and it's like, I don't want to do that. By using a clock and keeping your time and increasing your time over time, you're letting your autonomic system know, this is what I want to be doing. This is the new norm. I'd like you to adjust. And guess what? It adjusts. I'm a little asymmetrical here. I'm going to rotate just a bit. So notice throughout this, you got to check your body. If you find any kind of asymmetry in terms of like, oh, this is a little bit off from this, you're here for 5 minutes, it's going to make a difference. So you got to, and I'm not even sure if I'm This is a little bit better, but I'm a little bit off still. Let's see. There we go. It's better. Again, breathe to relax, 4-8 breathing, wet noodle, tension, passive tension over time, or passive resistance over time. Another thing that's important. Okay, so I'm not doing yoga. I know this isn't a pose, but the previous pose was straight out of yoga. I'm not doing yoga. I'm using, notice the difference where I'm not doing yoga. I'm using a yoga asana, a yoga pose to practice flexibility. A yoga asana, a pose, is not yoga. It's a pose. If you do the pose with yogic breathing, then you're doing yoga. So a lot of people confuse the pose for yoga. Yoga is not poses. Yoga is a lot more than just that. Yoga is the poses, the movement, the controlling of the muscles, the bandhas, et cetera, the breath. So we use yoga poses with a different intention. We hold them longer. And uh, the reason I'm saying all this is it's how it feels, not how it looks. It doesn't matter. If you're getting a stretch, that's what we're going for. The video I did yesterday, I did wide dog using the stool that's just to my right hip, right up my hip. And I can do the wide dog on the ground, but I end up only targeting the back of my legs. If I want to target between the shoulder blades, I find it trivial to do it the way I did it with the stool. So you start working on a pose, try to figure out, where it's meant to be targeting. How do you make adjustments so that you can do it? And then how do you build up your time? And it's a practice. It's an ongoing practice. Alexa, stop. Okay, now to come out of this, let's see, can I come up this way? Yeah, that's okay. And then I'm going to roll over. Okay, this here. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab my elbows and try to get them to connect. So, but I'm going to use a prop for that I don't have handy. I'll just use this prop. This is not the normal prop I would use, but I've left my strap somewhere else, so this will do. I'm going to get into a comfortable seating position. I'm just going to do this. This sitting on my heels, this is a very comfortable position. But if you're, since I'm going to sit here for a while, I'll go ahead and use a block just so that there's no chance that I'm going to make my knees tired from doing this since I've already done that pose. Okay. Next, let me give you a bit of a different angle. See what I'm doing here. Okay. Alexa, 3-minute timer. Now, I'm not going to be able to get these. Well, I guess I can sort of get them together almost. So my left shoulder is in hyper extension. So my armpit is open. All right. So I am extending my armpit on the right, closing it on the left. So trying to get ideally my right elbow pointing up. Maybe I can push it back with my neck a little bit. There we go. There is another way to get your upper arm there, but since I'm using this prop, it'd be difficult. I'll sometimes go up to a wall and I'll put my raised elbow against the wall to push it back a little bit. I don't do that for the whole pose because it's a bit intense. But honestly, this thing's working out fairly well because I can just sort of lock my finger around the ball at the bottom there and it sort of keeps in place. So this is a good thing, good discovery. Remember, it's how it feels, not how it looks. I'm getting a really nice shoulder stretch on my left. The underside of my right arm is getting a nice stretch. I can't touch it because my arms are busy. The rest of my body's doing pretty well. My neck's getting a little bit of tension, but notice I'm going to push my head back a little bit, and that will get that gets that arm back a little bit. Oh, there you go. That's even better. Now for you Tai Chi people, tuck your tailbone, push your fontanelle up, work on your second bow. And then after you've got it established, relax your stomach and just sort of sit there. There was a bit of an adjustment there. You might not have noticed, but there was. I did just a slight amount of thoracic extension of my spine. Maybe. Alexa, stop. Okay, I'm going to come out of this. Ugh. Now that I just did that, it occurs to me, take that apart, just use half of it. All right, let's see that from the other side. We'll see how this goes. Maybe a little bit more here. I might be being optimistic about not having it. Oh, you know what? I'm wrong. There we go. Okay. Alexa, 3-minute timer. Okay, it's not working as well this time. I got lucky the first time, apparently. There we go. Go around like this. That's it. Oh, wow. Okay, there we go. This is my renegade side. Okay, so I'll mention this. So this is an asymmetrical pose. What does that mean? You do one side at a time. A lot of poses are asymmetrical, a lot of them are symmetrical. The first pose I did today, hero pose or lightning bolt, symmetrical. This pose is asymmetrical. Noodle pose, the second pose I did, also symmetrical. So the advantage of asymmetrical poses is if you have a renegade or a tight side, maybe do it for a minute longer. I'm not going to do that here, but it's not a crazy idea. For some poses, especially my hip openers, I'll do them asymmetrically in terms of time. My left side is tighter than my right side. So my right shoulder is in hyperextension, and my left shoulder is pointing up to the sky. Underside of my left arm is getting a really nice stretch. And I'm extending my right shoulder, extending my left shoulder, flexing my right shoulder. Okay, I'm getting a cramp. Oh, I don't know what's going on today. I'm getting cramps in my feet here. I'll do this. That should do it. Now again, for this one, it doesn't matter how you sit. In fact, I'm just going to go ahead and there we go. Alexa, stop. Ooh. Come out really slow. Okay, now that is my normal Thursday routine, but lately, the last few months, I've been working on splits. So I'm going to go ahead and do that here. Do it here. Okay. Let's see how it does it like this. Now, I'm still a long way off. So I start with this, and all right, heels up, heels up. Okay, so I normally start here. I'll stay here for a few minutes just to sort of get into it. I normally don't use a timer for this because I normally go for about, I'm not going to do 10 minutes right now, but to give you an idea of what I'm doing. Now, one thing, so my feet are like this. If I turn my feet down and go into it, I end up getting, I target a slightly different place that actually needs more flexibility. So that's actually maybe something I'll do tonight when I do this again. But if I turn my feet over, ooh, okay. So I can now feel things starting to relax. My sarcomeres are stretching, extending. Unfortunately, this pad that I'm on is making it harder for my feet to slide out. So I'm not going to be able to go as far down, I don't think. Even still, I'm getting a nice stretch. I talked about wet noodle. So notice my arms aren't wet noodle, but I'm using my bones, my skeletal structure for support. I'm not using any muscle strength here at all. In a moment, I'll use a little biohack, PNF, proprioceptive neuromuscular facilitation. Squeeze and release. I only do it on big poses like this. So really, I only do it on this pose. I might do it on the front splits, but I'm not working on the front splits. I'm only working on the side splits right now. The front splits are different, entirely different, and they're actually not as much effort. Even though I haven't worked on it and I could work on it and I need to work on it eventually, I prefer to keep a low whip work in process of new poses. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and do a round of PNF. So I'm going to come out a little bit. This is important. PNF, you can really overdo it. What you're doing is actually, I'll talk about it first before I do it. What you're doing is there are two flex responses. When I started stretching my legs out, if I go too fast or too far, my sarcomeres, which are like this, I'm doing this. I'm letting my sarcomeres come apart. They go nope. They stop because they don't want me to tear the muscle. So that's why you go slow. That's why you take your time. You breathe to relax. But there's another flex response, or sorry, stretch response where your tendons connect to the bone. If the body thinks there's a chance of a tear, it will relax the muscle so that you can't accidentally tear the tendon off the bone using your muscles. So what we're going to do is I'm going to come out of the pose a little bit. I'm going to squeeze for probably 20, I don't know, until I'm going for a sensation where it feels like things are like giving up in my joints, and then I relax. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. I'm going to come up a little bit. Okay. Now I'm pulling my heels in. Oh, right there. Oh, yeah, there we go. I'm going to look back at this video to see if I'm actually any lower because it sure feels a lot more intense. Whew. Sometimes I go a little too far, so I come out, wait for a little bit, then go back down. But I think I'm gonna hold on this one. So this is pretty intense right here, but I can change where I'm hitting quite a bit by just doing this. Like right there. Oh, right there. Gotta be careful here. So notice my voice isn't too constrained. I mean, I'm definitely feeling discomfort. If I go much further, it'll probably start to cause my voice to break. And that's when you know you're probably going too far. And here's why. Let's call this a 7 out of 10 because I can still talk normally. If you go much further, you're kind of to the point where you're probably going to get a reflex. And if you get a reflex response, you're going to have a net negative. Better to go longer at a 7 than shorter at a higher intensity. Okay. So just as an example, my inner thighs, where I'm feeling this really mostly in here. When I had my feet flat on the ground last night, I ended up feeling it most on the back, my buttocks, my butt. But things are stretching. Things are definitely stretching. I've seen these videos on Instagram where people just can do the full splits. I used to be able to do the full splits back in the early 90s. And I, I'm pretty certain when I was able to do it before, it was through probably tendon and ligament stretching, which I don't do anymore. I'm too old to be doing that kind of stuff. I don't want to have permanent damage. So I'm trying to focus the muscle bodies. I'm not trying to get my tendons stretched. I mean, I certainly probably am doing a little bit of that, but I'm really trying to be careful of that to make sure that I'm feeling it mostly in the muscle body. Um, you might disagree with that. Maybe you think you should be stretching your tendons. I'm sure I have in the past, but the tendons are kind of like plastic. They can stretch a little bit, but if you stretch them too far, they deform and game over. So I'm not trying to do that. The way you actually get even more flexible, believe it or not, I think is a mixture of strength and flexibility. The flexibility extends your muscles to their limit. Strength adds more sarcomeres, then you can have more stretching. So it's a yin yang. Strength yang, flexibility yin. And just I don't think I said this on my last video because I was just practicing. Always do this after. Like, okay, I'm going to go back to work. I'm going to be sitting on a desk. I'm going to actually be sitting on a recumbent bicycle seat and slowly turning my legs, but I'm not using any force. So that's okay. I wouldn't go and do any kind of weight assisted stuff with my legs or the rest of my body after doing this for at least a couple of hours. Probably, well, I won't do it at all today. Actually, I think I have gone for over 5 minutes. Let's see. Probably more like 9 or 10 minutes, it looks like. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and come out. I think that's enough. Now, it's embarrassing how I have to get out of this. Now, if I do it this way, I'm not using my legs at all because once you stretch those muscles, they've got nothing. Once I get it back like to here, I'm fine. I can turn one side up. There we go. That's all I needed. That didn't hurt at all, but if I had tried to use my legs, it would have hurt. I still haven't got this leg back. Okay, there we go. So, wow, that was yeah, that was a pretty full on stretch. Eventually, I'll get rid of that pillow, but that allows me to hold that for a long time, and I can totally feel a difference in things like spinning kicks and honestly getting in and out of my car. So my hips are getting better. Don't know if I'm ever going to get to the full splits. I naively thought 6 months ago they'd be no problem. And I've been belayed at that assumption, and now it's I wonder how far it's going to go. But I'm going to keep doing this even after I get to my limit, just because I want to maintain it. And a little bit of discomfort every day makes it so that when you have bigger discomfort, it's not as much of a shock. Enjoy. Have a good afternoon.